The dinner has been planned for weeks, Michelle. I cannot just cancel it because Lucas has a little school thing. My mother-in-law said those words while looking me straight in the eye, her expression a perfect mask of innocent regret. A little school thing. That is what she called my son's school play. The play he had been rehearsing for 3 months. The play where he had the lead role. The play that was the single most important event in his 9-year-old life. A little school thing. I stood in her pristine kitchen, my hands clenched at my sides, trying to keep my voice steady. Eleanor, Lucas has the lead role. He is playing the prince. This is not some background part where he stands on stage and waves. He has lines. He has songs. He has been working on this every single day since September. I understand that, dear. But this dinner has been on the calendar for weeks. My bridge club friends are coming, and Richard's business partner will be there with his wife. I cannot possibly reschedule. The play is one night. One night. Eleanor, can you not move the dinner to the next evening? She sighed, the way she always did when she thought I was being unreasonable. Michelle, I have already ordered the food. The caterer is confirmed. My friends have arranged their schedules. I am sorry, but this dinner is happening on Saturday at 6 o'clock. If Lucas's play is at the same time, well, that is unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing. As if she had not known about the play for weeks. As if she had not been told the date and time multiple times. As if this collision was some cosmic accident rather than a deliberate choice. I knew better. I knew Eleanor well enough by now to recognize when she was orchestrating something. And this had her fingerprints all over it. You knew about the play, I said quietly. I told you the date back in October. I sent you a reminder 2 weeks ago. You have known about this for months. Did you? I do not remember that. My memory is not what it used to be. Her memory was sharp enough to recall every slight, real or imagined, that I had ever committed against her. Her memory was sharp enough to remember exactly which of her grandchildren deserved which level of attention. Her memory was plenty good when it suited her purposes. So the family has to choose, I said, between your dinner party and Lucas's play. I am not making anyone choose. I am simply hosting a dinner that has been planned for weeks. What other people decide to do with their evening is their own business. But we both knew that was a lie. In Eleanor's world, her events were mandatory. Missing one of her gatherings was tantamount to a declaration of war. She would hold it against you for years, bring it up at every opportunity, make sure you knew exactly how much you had hurt her by prioritizing something else over her carefully planned evening. The family would choose the dinner. They always did. They were too afraid of Eleanor's disapproval to do anything else. And my son would perform the biggest role of his young life to a half-empty audience, scanning the crowd for family members who had chosen a dinner party over him. I left Eleanor's house that day with a heavy heart and a growing determination. I could not force the family to come to Lucas's play, but I could make sure he knew that at least one person would always be there for him. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Michelle Hartwell. I am 32 years old, and I have been married to my husband Brian for 11 years. We have one child, a wonderful boy named Lucas who is 9 years old. He has dark curly hair and the most expressive brown eyes you have ever seen, and when he smiles, it is like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. Lucas has always been a performer. Even as a toddler, he would put on shows for us, singing songs he made up on the spot, acting out stories with his stuffed animals, demanding that we watch his latest creation. He was born with a spark, a love of being on stage, a natural charisma that drew people's attention. When he started elementary school, he immediately gravitated toward the drama club. He auditioned for every play, took every part he was offered, stayed after school for extra rehearsals. His teachers noticed his talent and encouraged him. By 3rd grade, he was being cast in lead roles, his natural ability shining through. This year, the school was putting on a production of The Prince and the Pauper. Lucas had auditioned for the dual lead role, the prince and the pauper who switch places. It was a demanding part, requiring him to play two different characters, to switch between them seamlessly, to carry the entire show on his 9-year-old shoulders. When he got the part, he was over the moon. He came running off the school bus, waving the cast list, shouting at the top of his lungs. "Mom! Mom! I got it! I got the lead! I am going to be the prince and the pauper!" I swept him up in a hug, spinning him around, my heart bursting with pride. "I knew you could do it, sweetheart. You worked so hard at those auditions." Mrs. Patterson said I was a natural. She said I had real talent. She said this was going to be the best production the school has ever done. That night, he could barely eat dinner. He kept jumping up from the table to practice his lines, to try out different voices, to show us how he was going to transform between characters. Brian smiled indulgently, but I could tell he did not fully understand what this meant to Lucas. To Brian, it was a school play. To Lucas, it was everything. From that moment on, Lucas threw himself into rehearsals with complete dedication. He practiced his lines every night, memorizing not just his own parts but everyone else's too, so he would know exactly when to come in, exactly what cue to listen for. He worked on his character voices, giving the prince a regal tone and the pauper a scrappy, street-smart attitude. He choreographed his own blocking, figuring out how to make each scene more dynamic. He turned our living room into a stage. Every evening after homework, he would clear the furniture aside and run through his scenes. He recruited me to read the other parts, and I spent hours being variously a palace guard, a street beggar, and the prince's tutor. I did not mind. Watching him transform into these characters, seeing his talent bloom, was one of the great joys of my life. He asked his father to help too, but Brian was usually too tired after work, or had something else to do, or promised to help tomorrow in a way that tomorrow never came. I watched Lucas's face each time Brian made an excuse, watched him learn to stop asking, learn to expect less. It broke my heart, but I could not force Brian to be present. I could only make sure that I was. 3 weeks into rehearsals, Lucas came home with a note from Mrs. Patterson. She wanted to meet with us to discuss Lucas's performance. I felt a moment of panic, wondering if something had gone wrong, but Lucas assured me it was good news. It was. Mrs. Patterson told us that Lucas was the most talented young actor she had ever taught, that he was carrying the entire production, that the other teachers were already talking about how special this year's play was going to be. "He has a real gift," she said, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I have been teaching drama for 20 years, and I have seen a lot of talented kids. But Lucas is different. He does not just perform, he becomes the character. He makes choices that adult actors struggle to make. I genuinely believe he could have a future in this if he wants it." I was glowing with pride. Brian nodded along, said the right things, but I could tell he was not really listening. To him, this was just a teacher being nice about a school play. He did not understand that Mrs. Patterson was telling us something important about our son's potential. I made sure everyone in the family knew about the play. I sent emails with the date and time. I mentioned it at every family gathering. I created a group text specifically for sharing updates about Lucas's rehearsals. Eleanor acknowledged the information each time with a vague, "How nice," or "That sounds lovely." I assumed she was planning to attend. Why would not she? Her only grandson had the lead role in a major school production. What grandmother would miss that? Apparently, mine. The dinner invitation arrived 3 weeks before the play. Eleanor sent out a formal email to the entire family, announcing a special gathering at her house on Saturday, December 14th, at 6 o'clock in the evening. December 14th, 6 o'clock. The exact date and time of Lucas's play. I stared at my phone, reading the email over and over, convinced I must be misunderstanding something. There had to be a mistake. Eleanor could not possibly have scheduled a dinner party for the exact same time as her grandson's play. Not after all the reminders. Not after all the excitement Lucas had shared with her about his lead role. I called Brian immediately. Did you see your mother's email? The dinner thing. Yeah, she mentioned she was planning something. It is on the same night as Lucas's play. The exact same time. There was a pause. Are you sure? That does not seem right. December 14th, 6 o'clock. That is when the play starts. That is when your mother's dinner is. Another pause, longer this time. Maybe she forgot about the play. You know how busy she gets with her social stuff. I have reminded her about the play at least 5 times, Brian. She knows. She has known for months. So what do you want me to do about it? The question hung in the air between us. What did I want him to do? I wanted him to call his mother and tell her to change the date. I wanted him to prioritize his son over his mother's dinner party. I wanted him to see what I saw, the deliberate sabotage, the calculated conflict, the way Eleanor always seemed to create situations where Lucas came last. I want you to talk to her. Ask her to move the dinner to a different night. She is not going to do that. You know how she is about her parties. Then tell her you cannot come because you are going to your son's play. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. Brian was not going to stand up to his mother. He was not going to choose Lucas over Eleanor's expectations. He was going to do what he always did, what everyone in his family always did. He was going to cave. Maybe we can work something out, he finally said. Maybe I can go to the first part of the play and then leave for the dinner. Or maybe we can split up. You go to the play and I go to the dinner. Split up? For our son's lead role in a school play? You want to miss seeing him perform? I do not want to miss it. But Mom is expecting me at this dinner. She has been planning it for weeks. She scheduled it for the same night as Lucas's play on purpose, Brian. She knew about the play and she chose to create a conflict. You do not know that. I do know that. And deep down, you know it too. You just do not want to admit it because then you would have to actually do something about it. The argument that followed was painful and unproductive. Brian insisted that his mother was not capable of such calculated cruelty. I insisted that she absolutely was, that I had been watching her subtle sabotage for years, that this was just the latest in a long pattern of putting Lucas last. In the end, Brian said he would talk to his mother. But I knew what that meant. It meant he would make a half-hearted request that she would easily refuse, and then he would go to the dinner while his son performed the biggest role of his life without his father in the audience. I was right. Brian called Eleanor and asked if she could move the dinner. She refused, citing all the reasons she had given me. The caterer, the guests, the planning. She could not possibly change the date now. It would be too inconvenient. But I did offer a compromise, Brian told me that night. I asked if the dinner could start later, maybe at 8, so I could catch the first half of Lucas's play. She said she would think about it. She thought about it for approximately 12 hours before sending another email to the family, confirming that the dinner would begin at 6 o'clock sharp and that cocktails would be served starting at 5:30. Anyone who arrived late would miss the appetizer course. The message was clear. Choose the dinner or face the consequences. I watched as, one by one, the family fell in line. Brian's sister Caroline sent a text saying she was sorry, but she could not miss Mom's dinner, especially with Richard's business partner coming. Brian's brother Mark said the same thing. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them expressed regret that they could not make it to Lucas's play, but Mom's dinner was just too important to miss. Not one of them offered to skip the dinner. Not one of them suggested that maybe, just maybe, a 9-year-old school play should take priority over a social gathering. Not one of them stood up to Eleanor and said that what she was doing was wrong. Including Brian. I will try to make it to the second act, he said the night before the play. The dinner should not go too late. Maybe I can slip out early. Lucas will be looking for you in the audience from the moment the curtain opens. He will be looking for his father during his biggest scene. And you will not be there. I am trying, Michelle. I am doing the best I can. Your best would be telling your mother that you are going to your son's play, and if she has a problem with that, it is her problem, not yours. It is not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You are choosing to make it complicated because you are afraid of disappointing your mother. But what about disappointing your son? Brian did not have an answer for that. He just looked at me with those defeated eyes, the eyes of a man who had been trained from childhood to put his mother's needs above everything else, and mumbled something about doing his best. I slept in the guest room that night. I could not bear to be next to someone who was choosing a dinner party over our child. The day of the play arrived. Lucas was a bundle of nerves and excitement, bouncing around the house, running his lines one more time, checking and rechecking his costume. Is everyone coming, Mom? Is the whole family going to be there? I had been dreading this question. I had not told Lucas about the conflict, had not wanted to burden him with the knowledge that his grandmother had sabotaged his special night. But I could not lie to him either. I will be there, sweetheart. Front row, center seat. I would not miss it for the world. What about Dad? And Grandma? And Aunt Caroline and Uncle Mark? Dad is going to try to come for the second act. He has something he has to do first, but he is going to try. What about Grandma? I took a deep breath. Grandma has a dinner party tonight. She might not be able to make it. Lucas's face fell, just for a moment, before he forced a smile back into place. That is okay. She is probably really busy. Maybe she can come to the next play. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. He was 9 years old, and he was already making excuses for the people who should have been fighting to be there for him. He was already learning to lower his expectations, to accept less than he deserved, to pretend that being let down did not hurt. You are going to be amazing tonight, I told him, pulling him into a hug. No matter who is in the audience, you are going to shine. I am so proud of you, Lucas. So proud. Thanks, Mom. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. Now go get ready. You have a show to put on. I dropped Lucas off at school 2 hours before the performance so he could get into costume and do final rehearsals. Then I went home to get ready myself, determined to make this night as special as I possibly could for my son. I put on my nicest dress, the one I usually saved for weddings and fancy dinners. I did my hair and makeup like I was going to a premiere. I wanted Lucas to look out into the audience and see that at least one person had shown up for him like he was the most important person in the world. Because he was. He was the most important person in my world, even if he was not in Eleanor's. The school auditorium was buzzing with excitement when I arrived. Parents and grandparents and siblings filled the seats, clutching programs, craning their necks to see the stage. The air was thick with anticipation and the particular energy that comes from watching children perform. I made my way to the front row, to the seat I had specifically reserved weeks ago. I had asked for extra seats too, 6 of them, for Brian and Eleanor and the rest of the family. Those seats were empty now, marked with little reserved signs that felt like accusations. I pulled out my phone and checked for messages. Nothing from Brian. Nothing from anyone. The lights dimmed. The audience quieted. The curtain rose. And there was Lucas, standing center stage in his pauper costume, looking exactly like the scrappy street kid he was supposed to be. He was wearing ragged clothes the costume department had carefully distressed, and he had somehow made himself look smaller, hungrier, more desperate. He was not Lucas anymore. He was Tom Canty, the pauper boy who dreamed of a better life. He scanned the audience, his eyes searching the front row, looking for the people who were supposed to be there for him. His gaze found me. I waved, a small wave, just enough to let him know I was there. I saw him smile, just a flicker, before he got into character. And then he started to perform. He was magnificent. There is no other word for it. My 9-year-old son stood on that stage and commanded every moment. He delivered every line with perfect timing, with emotion that seemed impossible from someone so young. He made the audience laugh, then made them hold their breath, then made them tear up, all within the span of a single scene. The transformation scenes were extraordinary. When Lucas switched from playing the pauper to playing the prince, you could see the change happen in real time. His posture shifted. His voice changed. Even his face seemed different, somehow more regal, more confident. And then, moments later, he would switch back, and there was Tom Canty again, bewildered and out of his depth in a palace full of strangers. The audience was captivated. I could hear the gasps when he made the transformation from prince to pauper, the laughter at his comedic timing, the sniffles during the emotional scenes. He had them in the palm of his hand, these parents and grandparents and siblings who had come to see their own children, now completely absorbed in Lucas's performance. I kept looking at the empty seats beside me. Every time I turned my head, they were still there, still vacant, still marked with those accusatory reserved signs. I imagined Brian sitting in one of those seats, watching his son with the pride and wonder that any father should feel. I imagined Eleanor in another, finally seeing that her grandson was special, that he had talents worth nurturing and celebrating. But they were not there. They were at a dinner party, eating appetizers and making small talk with people who did not matter, while something magical was happening on this stage. And the seats next to me remained empty. I checked my phone during intermission. The lobby was crowded with excited parents, everyone talking about how good the play was, how talented the lead actor was. I overheard one mother saying to another, "That boy playing the prince and the pauper is incredible. Is he your son?" The other mother laughed and said she wished he was. I wanted to run up to them and say, "He is mine. That is my son. I am the only one here for him, but he is mine." One message from Brian, running late. Will try to make second act. No message from Eleanor. No message from anyone else in the family. I texted back, "He is incredible. You are missing something special." Brian did not respond. A woman sat down next to me, taking one of the empty reserved seats. "I am sorry," she said. "Is someone sitting here? There are not any other seats left." "No," I said. "Help yourself. The people who were supposed to be here chose not to come." She gave me a sympathetic look but did not ask for details. I was grateful for that. The second act was even better than the first. Lucas brought the house down with his final scene, the moment when the prince and the pauper reveal their true identities and learn that friendship matters more than status. He delivered the last lines with such sincerity, such genuine emotion, that half the audience was in tears. Including me. I was crying because my son was brilliant, and crying because his father was not there to see it, and crying because Eleanor had won. She had made the family choose, and they had chosen her. When the play ended, the audience leaped to their feet. A standing ovation for an elementary school play, something that almost never happened. Lucas took his bow, his face glowing with joy and relief and pride, and his eyes found mine in the crowd. I blew him a kiss. He grinned and blew one back. That moment, that connection between us, was worth more than all of Eleanor's dinner parties combined. Afterward, I went backstage to find Lucas. He was surrounded by his castmates and teachers, everyone congratulating him, telling him how amazing he had been. Mrs. Patterson, the drama teacher, was practically in tears. "Your son has a gift," she told me. "A real, genuine gift. I have been teaching for 20 years, and I have never seen a student performer like him. Thank you. He worked so hard for this. It shows. He should consider pursuing this seriously. Summer theater programs, acting classes, the works. He has something special." Lucas finally broke away from the crowd and ran into my arms. "Did you see me, Mom? Did you see the part where I switched characters in the middle of the scene? I nailed it. You nailed everything, sweetheart. You were perfect. I am so proud of you. Where is Dad? Did he make it for the second act? I looked around, hoping against hope that Brian had somehow slipped in without me noticing. But he was not there. The auditorium was emptying out, families heading home, and Brian was nowhere to be seen. He got held up, sweetheart. But he cannot wait to hear all about it. Lucas's face flickered with disappointment, quickly masked. That is okay. He can watch the video, right? Someone recorded it. I recorded the whole thing. Every single second. Good. Then Dad can see it later. And Grandma too. She will be sorry she missed it. No, I thought. She will not be sorry at all. She will tell you how wonderful her dinner party was and barely ask about your play, and you will learn, again, that you are not her priority. But I did not say that. I just hugged my son and told him again how proud I was, how amazing he had been, how this was just the beginning of great things for him. We went out for ice cream after the play, just the two of us, a celebration that should have included his entire family but instead was intimate and special in its own way. Lucas talked non-stop about every moment of the performance, reliving each scene, analyzing what went well and what he could improve next time. He did not mention his father's absence again. He did not ask about his grandmother or his aunts and uncles. He had already accepted, at 9 years old, that some people would not show up for him. He was already learning to celebrate his victories with whoever was there, rather than mourning those who were not. That is what Eleanor's sabotage had taught him. That is what Brian's cowardice had reinforced. My son, my brilliant, talented, deserving son, was learning to expect less from the people who should have loved him most. Brian came home around 10 o'clock, long after Lucas was in bed. I was sitting in the living room, waiting for him, my anger having cooled into something harder and more permanent than rage. "How was the play?" he asked, not quite meeting my eyes. "It was incredible. Lucas was incredible. He got a standing ovation." "That is great. I am sorry I could not make it. The dinner ran longer than I expected." "You could have left. You could have excused yourself and come to see your son perform the biggest role of his life. But you chose not to. It was not that simple, Michelle. Mom would have been furious." "And what about Lucas? Do you think he was not hurt that his father was not there?" Brian sat down heavily on the couch, rubbing his face with his hands. I know I messed up. But what was I supposed to do? Mom made it clear that missing the dinner was not an option. So your mother's demands take priority over your son's needs. That is what you are telling me. That is not what I am saying. That is exactly what you are saying, and what you are showing Lucas every time you choose her over him. The argument went on for hours, covering the same ground we had covered 100 times before. Brian's inability to stand up to his mother. My frustration with his weakness. Lucas caught in the middle, always coming last in a family where Eleanor's wishes trumped everything else. By the end of the night, we had reached an uneasy truce, the kind of fragile peace that comes from exhaustion rather than resolution. Brian promised to do better. I promised to try to understand. Neither of us believed the other, but we were too tired to keep fighting. I did not sleep well that night. I kept thinking about Lucas, about his face when he scanned the audience looking for his father, about how quickly he had learned to lower his expectations. I kept thinking about Eleanor, sitting in her dining room surrounded by guests, probably not giving a single thought to the grandson she had abandoned. And I kept thinking about revenge. Not revenge in the petty, vindictive sense, but consequence. Eleanor needed to understand what it felt like to have something important to her dismissed, deprioritized, overlooked. She needed to experience, just once, the kind of rejection she routinely inflicted on Lucas. For weeks, I thought about how to make this happen. I considered various approaches. Confronting her directly, which I knew would just lead to more denial and deflection. Cutting off contact completely, which would hurt Lucas as much as it hurt Eleanor. Getting Brian to stand up to her, which seemed about as likely as winning the lottery. And then I realized, I did not need to do anything dramatic. I just needed to wait. Eleanor would create another opportunity soon enough. She always did. The opportunity came 2 months later. Eleanor's other grandchild, Brian's niece Sophie, was having a dance recital. Sophie was Caroline's daughter, the golden child of Eleanor's world, the granddaughter who could do no wrong. She had been taking ballet since she was 3, and now, at age 10, she was performing a solo in the winter showcase. Eleanor had been talking about it for weeks. Sophie this, Sophie that. How talented she was, how graceful, how the dance teacher said she had real potential. Every family dinner, every phone call, every interaction included some mention of Sophie's upcoming performance. Eleanor had bought a new dress specifically for the occasion. She was planning a celebration dinner afterward at Sophie's favorite restaurant. The contrast to how she had treated Lucas's play was striking. For Sophie, there were countdown calendars and special preparations and constant reminders to everyone that attendance was mandatory. For Lucas, there had been a dismissive little school thing and a deliberately scheduled conflict. She sent out invitations to the entire family, of course. A formal email, just like the one for her dinner party, announcing that Sophie's recital would be on Saturday, February 15th, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Everyone was expected to attend. It was a family event, and family came first. Family came first. Unless that family was Lucas. I read the email and felt something harden inside me. I had tried being understanding. I had tried being patient. I had tried believing that maybe Eleanor would change, that maybe she would start treating Lucas fairly without being forced to. She had not. And now it was time for consequences. I knew what I had to do. I waited 2 days, letting Eleanor think everyone would attend, letting her excitement build. Then I sent her a text message, "So sorry, but I will not be able to make Sophie's dance recital. Lucas has a chess tournament that afternoon, and I need to be there to support him." There was no chess tournament. Lucas did not even play chess. But Eleanor did not know that. And more importantly, she did not know what it felt like to have someone choose a different event over her precious grandchild's performance. She was about to learn. Her response came within minutes. "But you have to come. Sophie has been looking forward to having the whole family there. I understand, and I am really sorry. But I cannot miss Lucas's tournament. He has been working so hard, and it would mean so much to him to have me in the audience. Can Brian bring him to the tournament? Surely you can skip one chess match." "I am afraid not. This is an important event for Lucas, and I want to be there for him. Just like I was there for his school play." There was a long pause before her next message. I could almost see her face, the dawning realization that I was using her own tactics against her. The recognition that this was not a scheduling conflict but a deliberate choice. This is not the same thing. Sophie's recital is a big deal. So was Lucas's play. He had the lead role. He got a standing ovation. And not one member of this family was there to see it because you scheduled a dinner party at the same time. That was different. I had already made plans. And now I have plans. I am sorry you are disappointed, but sometimes conflicts happen. I am sure Sophie will understand. The messages kept coming, each one more desperate than the last. Eleanor was not used to being refused. She was not used to having her events treated as optional. She was genuinely shocked that someone would choose something else over her grandchild's performance. Good, I thought. Now you know how it feels. Eleanor tried everything over the next 2 days. She called Brian and demanded that he make me attend. She sent guilt-tripping messages about how I was hurting Sophie's feelings. She even called me directly, something she almost never did, and pleaded with me to reconsider. I stayed firm. I told her I was sorry, but Lucas needed me, and I was not going to abandon him for a recital. The day of Sophie's performance, I took Lucas to the movies. We saw a superhero film he had been wanting to watch, ate too much popcorn, and had a wonderful afternoon together. I did not think about Eleanor or Sophie or the family gathering that was happening without us. When Brian came home that night, he was furious. I had never seen him so angry, his face red, his hands shaking. My mother is devastated. She said you deliberately skipped Sophie's recital to punish her. I had a conflict. Lucas needed me. There was no chess tournament. I checked. You lied. Yes, I lied. Just like your mother lied when she said she did not remember about Lucas's play. Just like she lies every time she finds a way to put Lucas last. Brian paced the living room, running his hands through his hair. You do not understand what you have done. Caroline is furious. Mark is furious. My mother is talking about never speaking to you again. Good. Maybe now she knows how it feels. How what feels? How it feels to have someone you love put last. How it feels to have an important event dismissed as not worth attending. How it feels to look out into an audience and not see the people who should be there. Sophie is 10 years old. She did not do anything wrong. Why should she be punished for what my mother did? I felt a pang of guilt at that. Sophie was innocent in all this. She did not deserve to have family members skip her recital any more than Lucas had deserved to have his play ignored. But I pushed the guilt aside. Sophie had her entire family there. Her mother, her father, her grandmother, her uncle, her cousins. She had everyone except me. Lucas had no one except me. There is a difference. That is not the point. That is exactly the point. When Lucas performs, no one shows up because your mother finds ways to make it impossible. When Sophie performs, everyone is expected to drop everything and attend. I am just showing your mother that this double standard has consequences. Brian stopped pacing and stared at me. This is not the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. Your mother scheduled a dinner party at the same time as Lucas's play, and the entire family chose the dinner. I scheduled a conflict at the same time as Sophie's recital, and I chose my son. The only difference is that you think Sophie's feelings matter more than Lucas's. I do not think that. Then why was it okay for everyone to skip Lucas's play but not okay for me to skip Sophie's recital? Why are you angry at me but you were not angry at your mother? Brian opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. I could see him struggling, trying to find an argument that would hold up, realizing that there was not one. The parallel was too obvious, too perfect. I had done to Eleanor exactly what she had done to Lucas. You cannot just start a war with my mother, he finally said, his voice quieter now. I did not start anything. She started it when she chose a dinner party over her grandson's school play. I am just showing her what it feels like. She is never going to forgive you for this. I do not need her forgiveness. I need her to understand that Lucas matters, that his events are just as important as Sophie's, that she cannot keep putting him last without consequences. And what about us? What about our marriage? You are putting me in an impossible position. No, Brian. Your mother is putting you in an impossible position. She has been doing it for years, making you choose between her and everyone else. I am just the first person who has refused to accept always coming last. We talked, or rather argued, late into the night. Brian was torn between his lifelong conditioning to never upset his mother and the growing realization that I was right, that Eleanor's treatment of Lucas was unfair and damaging. I do not know what to do, he admitted finally, sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. I love my mother. But I love Lucas too. And you are right, I have been letting her treat him badly for years. So what are you going to do about it? I do not know. I need to think. While you are thinking, remember this. Lucas looked out into that audience and saw one person. One. His mother. His father was not there. His grandmother was not there. His aunts and uncles and cousins were not there. He performed the best night of his young life to a mostly empty family section. And then he came home and made excuses for all of you, because he has already learned not to expect his family to show up for him. Brian flinched like I had slapped him. Good. He needed to feel this. He needed to understand what his cowardice had cost his son. I will do better, he said. I will talk to my mother. I will make sure Lucas's next performance is different. Talk is easy. I need to see action. The fallout was significant. Eleanor stopped speaking to me entirely for weeks. Family gatherings became awkward and tense. Brian's siblings looked at me like I had committed some unforgivable sin. But something else happened too. Eleanor, for the first time, seemed to understand that her actions had consequences. She could not treat Lucas as an afterthought without risking similar treatment for Sophie. She could not expect me to show up for her favored grandchild while ignoring mine. 3 months after Sophie's recital, Lucas had another school performance. A smaller one this time, just a class presentation about American history, but he was excited about it nonetheless. He was playing Benjamin Franklin in a skit about the Continental Congress, complete with a gray wig and wire-rimmed glasses that kept sliding down his nose. I told the family about it, as I always did. I sent the usual emails, made the usual mentions at family gatherings. I did not expect anyone to come. I had stopped expecting that a long time ago. But then, 2 days before the performance, I got a text from Eleanor. What time is Lucas's presentation? I would like to attend. I stared at my phone, convinced I was hallucinating. Eleanor had never voluntarily attended anything of Lucas's. She had to be tricked, guilt, or scheduled around. She did not just offer to show up. It is at 2 o'clock on Thursday, I texted back, still suspicious. But you do not have to come. I know you are busy. I want to come. I have cleared my calendar. I did not know what to make of this. Part of me wanted to believe she had changed, that my stand at Sophie's recital had finally gotten through to her. Another part of me was waiting for the other shoe to drop, for some excuse to materialize at the last minute. Thursday came. Lucas put on his Benjamin Franklin costume and practiced his lines one more time in the car on the way to school. He was nervous but excited, the way he always was before a performance. Is anyone coming to see me? He asked. I will be there, sweetheart. Front row as always. Anyone else? I hesitated. I did not want to get his hopes up. Maybe Grandma. She said she might come. Lucas's eyes widened. Grandma? Really? She said she would try. But you know how busy she is. I hope she comes. I want her to see me be Benjamin Franklin. He is one of the best founding fathers. Did you know that? He invented all kinds of stuff. I dropped him off and went to find a seat. The auditorium was smaller than the one for the school play, just a regular classroom that had been converted for the presentation. Chairs were set up in rows, and parents were already filing in. I took a seat in the front row and waited. At 1:55, Eleanor walked through the door. She was dressed nicely, as always, and she was carrying a small bouquet of flowers. She scanned the room until she found me, then made her way over and sat down in the seat next to mine. Michelle, she said, nodding at me. Eleanor, I am surprised to see you. I said I would come. You have said that before. She had the grace to look uncomfortable. I know. I have not always been fair to Lucas. I am trying to do better. I did not know what to say to that. An acknowledgement of wrongdoing from Eleanor was about as rare as a unicorn sighting. I decided to accept it at face value, at least for now. He will be happy to see you here. I hope so. The presentation started a few minutes later. Lucas's class filed onto the makeshift stage, all wearing various colonial costumes. When Lucas appeared in his Benjamin Franklin getup, Eleanor actually laughed, a genuine laugh of delight. He looks wonderful, she whispered. Lucas scanned the audience, as he always did, looking for his people. His eyes found me first, and he smiled. Then his gaze moved to the seat next to me, and he saw Eleanor. His face lit up in a way I had not seen in months. The presentation itself was charming, if not particularly polished. 9-year-olds doing their best to convey the drama of American independence. Lucas delivered his lines well, even got a big laugh when his wire-rimmed glasses fell off during an impassioned speech about electricity. When it was over, the audience clapped, and Lucas took an exaggerated bow. Eleanor was on her feet, applauding enthusiastically. Afterward, Lucas ran over to us, still in his costume. He hugged me first, then, hesitantly, turned to Eleanor. Did you like it, Grandma? Did you see the part where my glasses fell off? Eleanor knelt down to his level, something I had rarely seen her do. I loved it, Lucas. You were wonderful. The best Benjamin Franklin I have ever seen. Really? Really. And I am sorry I have not come to your performances before. I should have been here. I will do better. Lucas hugged her then, a real hug, the kind he used to give her before he learned to expect disappointment. Eleanor hugged him back, and I saw tears in her eyes. It was not a complete transformation. Eleanor was still Eleanor, still more comfortable with Sophie, still prone to favoritism. But she had shown up. She had made an effort. And that had to count for something. Eleanor came. She sat in the audience, watching her grandson present his project on the Revolutionary War. She clapped when he finished. She told him afterward that he had done a good job. She even took him out for ice cream afterward, just the two of them, and listened while he talked about all the things he had learned about Benjamin Franklin. It was not much. It was not the enthusiastic support that Sophie always received. But it was something. It was a start. Brian started to change too, slowly and imperfectly. He began to see the patterns I had been pointing out for years. He began to notice when his mother put Lucas last, and sometimes he actually said something about it. He was not transformed overnight, but he was trying. At Lucas's next big performance, the spring musical, Brian was there from the opening number. He sat next to me in the front row, and when Lucas took his final bow, Brian was cheering louder than anyone. Lucas's face when he saw both his parents in the audience, both of them there from start to finish, was worth every fight, every argument, every difficult conversation that had gotten us to this point. Lucas is 11 now. He still loves performing, still throws himself into every drama club production, still dreams of being an actor someday. He has learned, through hard experience, that not everyone will show up for him. But he has also learned that the people who matter will always be there. I am always there. Every performance, every presentation, every moment that matters to him. I sit in the front row and I cheer and I record everything so he can watch it later. I make sure he knows every single day that he is worth showing up for. That is what being a mother means. It means fighting for your child, even when the fight is with your own family. It means setting boundaries, even when those boundaries make people uncomfortable. It means teaching your child that they deserve to be prioritized, that their dreams matter, that the right people will make room for them. Eleanor still favors Sophie. Some things never fully change. But she has learned that there are limits, that she cannot expect me to support her grandchildren while she ignores mine. She has learned that consequences are real, and that I am not afraid to impose them. And Lucas has learned something too. He has learned that when the curtain rises and he looks out into the audience, there will always be at least one person cheering for him. One person who thinks he is the most important performer on that stage. One person who would never ever choose a dinner party over his moment in the spotlight. That person is me, his mother. And I will be there for every single performance, every single milestone, every single moment that matters to him for the rest of my life. Because that is what love looks like. Not the conditional, performative love that Eleanor offers. Real love. The kind that shows up, even when it is inconvenient. The kind that puts the child first, even when others are demanding attention. The kind that says, through action rather than words, you matter to me more than anything else in the world. Lucas knows he has that love. And that knowledge will carry him through every challenge, every disappointment, every time someone chooses something else over him. He will know that his mother never did. His mother always chose him. Thank you for listening to my journey of discovering what motherhood truly means. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, each from mothers who learned that protecting a child can mean standing alone against those once called family. Choose the one that speaks to you. And if you want to join a community of parents who fight for their children, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, blood connects us, but a mother's love protects us.